Welcome to another edition of the Watchful Citizen, a cable access program brought to you by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. My name is Benny Shobe, I'm your host, and today we're excited to welcome into studio Tom Green, candidate for Natural Resource District.
Thanks for having me, Benny.
Thank you for joining us, Tom. I'm glad you could make it. You're a candidate for something we commonly refer to as NRD.
That's right.
What is NRD?
Well, it stands for the Natural Resources Districts. It's a special district that the legislature created to deal with water issues, and it's based on watersheds. So that's why it's the Lower Platte South NRD. That means there's a Lower Platte North NRD, and there are NRDs controlling all the different watersheds in Nebraska.
I have some questions about that, and
Sure.
We'll get to that soon. But let's talk about you for a second. You're a candidate, and are you from Lincoln?
I grew up in Omaha. I went to the same school as Eric Crouch, and in Millard North. So then I can't say I came with him because I was not on a football scholarship, but I came to University of Nebraska-Lincoln for undergrad, and I basically lived here ever since then.
So you're a long-time Lincoln
Long-time
resident? Would that be
resident,
fair to
over
say?
15 years. So I've lived here, and my wife and I have a house here. So.
Oh, nice. So I'm still a little confused about this NRD, this Natural Resource District. We're in Lincoln. It's a major urban area. Why do we have a Natural Resource District in Lincoln?
Well, as I said, all the watersheds are covered by the Natural Resources Districts, and Lincoln, of course, is a major user of water, and water is very important to our society and our way of life, both for agricultural purposes in the more rural areas, but also in Lincoln, of course. Remember 2012 when there was the severe drought, and we all had to cut back on using water, and part of that is the NRD's ability to regulate and control the water and the groundwater. Now, of course, the city also manages the supply. That's totally different, but related.
So what part of the city is, I think you're in Sub-District 8?
Sub-District 8, there are quite a few. There are 10 total districts in the NRD on the Lower Platte South NRD board.
Okay.
And so it's divided up into 10 districts. Each district has 2 representatives, and they're elected for 4-year terms. So every 2 years, you elect one person to a 4-year term.
Okay.
So I will be running for one of the representatives in Sub-District 8.
It gets confusing to me.
It does.
And I was looking at a map earlier trying to figure out where Sub-District 8 was. How would you describe your district?
I've been describing it kind of as a triangle shape for the city of Lincoln. I live on 70th and an O basically. I live on Wedgwood Drive, if you know where the Wedgwood Lake is and stuff like that. So that's kind of the right corner of the triangle, and it goes down O Street to 33rd, and it goes south, and it kind of triangles up to about 84th and Pioneers. So it's the Pius area and Holmes Lake area. So that's kind of the part of Lincoln my district represents.
I was looking at it and said, wow, it starts on 33rd and O? That's almost the heart of Lincoln?
Yeah, so it's a very interestingly shaped district, and it's got a good, different, diverse groups of Lincoln in it.
Yeah, and then, like I say, Holmes Lake is the biggest feature in the middle of it, big water feature right in the middle of your district.
It is.
So, you said there were 10 districts in the Lower Platte South Natural Resource District, and you're one of 2 that would represent Sub-District 8.
Correct.
Why are you interested in being on the NRD board?
Well, my day job is I work in the legislature. I work as a legislative aide to State Senator Ken Haar, and I've also worked in the legislature for other senators prior, including Mayor Chris Beitler and Nancy Thompson and Don Preister, and just working in that environment where I get to experience a bunch of different political and policy aspects of Nebraska, and one that has really come into really big focus recently is water.
Yes.
Water is a huge issue in the state, and there are very different reasons. As you know, here in the eastern part and in Lincoln, it's not so much about irrigation, and we actually have more water here than there are a lot of issues out in the west with the Republican River and stuff like that. But those issues have brought my attention to the whole concern about water, and then also other issues that have come up as the trails. Many people don't know this, but the Natural Resources Districts are also in charge of the recreational trails in Lincoln, and that, of course, I think we've done a great job having a very nice trail system here in Lincoln, and I think we need to work to expand that as well. So trails and water are the 2 major issues that the NRD deals with, and those have both been very interesting policy aspects I've had to experience in the legislature, and I'd like to continue working on that policy on the NRD board.
So it sounds like you've already got your feet wet on the water issue. That was really bad, but So I want to talk a little bit more about that. When you talk about water, and I get confused because when I turn on the tap, I get water. Drinking water, not a problem. When my friends out in western Nebraska talk about irrigation, they're talking about water for different uses.
Yes.
And we just finished a big project here in Lincoln, the Antelope Valley Other, which is a different type of water issue.
Yeah, and they're all related, of course, and they all have different political subdivisions have different controls over how the water works. And the Antelope Valley project, of course, was a group project basically. With the NRD was participated, the city participated, the county participated. So I think those type of group projects are very good, and I'd much rather encourage our different groups to work together and be proactive. And especially here in the Lower Platte South, I think they're doing that very well. I like to continue that. We don't have NRDs are considered either fully appropriated, over appropriated, or they're not, and that's getting very technical here.
Yeah, really? Do you want to go there? I'm thinking appropriate as in funded to do things?
No, as in whether the water has been allocated.
Okay.
Basically, you inventory the groundwater in the whole district, and of course that groundwater is used for various purposes.
Yes.
Irrigation, city water supplies,
Drinking,
all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you use it too much, you're going to drain the water supply.
Right.
And that's bad.
Yeah.
And we are not in that situation yet. And I like to avoid us getting into a situation that is going to be worse. And I think that's really the goal for the Lower Platte South, is to work with the Department of Natural Resources and our other subdivisions to prevent water problems from becoming as severe as you may see out west, where they have to shut down pumping and really control how much water is being used to make sure that there's enough water and that the system is sustainable, and we need to worry about that. I'd much rather prevent a catastrophe than deal with one.
So, and I agree with what you're saying. It sounds like the NRD's responsibility is to think ahead and to prepare for the future and not overuse our resources now.
Correct. And unfortunately, in some of the more western areas, we weren't able to respond quick enough. But here in the east and in the Lower Platte South, we have higher rainfall levels. We don't have as much irrigation as we have out west. But those issues are coming, and we see with the city of Lincoln wanting to build more water pumping facilities in the 50-year plan and stuff like that as well.
I have a question about that one, yeah.
But so really the idea is, how can we work with the Department of Natural Resources, the state agency, with the city, the county, and also part of Cass County is in the Lower Platte South as well, so it's not just a county, but how we can work together to prevent and form sustainable ways to continue the water that we have and is used in useful ways for both for the city and for farmers who need that water and are a huge industry in this state, and we want to protect that. But we need to work with them to make sure that they aren't overusing the water, and if they are, how can we find sustainable ways to allow them to continue their livelihood but without endangering the whole system. And so that's really, and then there's been quite a few articles recently, I'm sure, out in the Raymond area, there's been issues about that too. So.
Yeah, there's been some issues of restricting water use out in the Raymond. You mentioned in passing, and I want to go back to this just a second. I assume that the Lower Platte South Natural Resource District, NRD, is just Lancaster County, and you said no, it's not?
It is not. Lancaster County, and then it goes part of Cass County, although not entirely Lancaster County. There are parts of Lancaster, small parts, that are outside, are in different resources. They're not, because the districts are not based on arbitrary county lines. They're based on the watershed to help us more manage that water, because it's not based on whether you're in this county or that county. Water flows in certain directions.
Based on where the water flows from and flows to.
Yes, and that's more important than whether you live in one county or another county for the purposes of the NRD.
That's hugely helpful to me. Thank you. Because I was looking at the map and thinking, how do they decide where the boundaries are on this one? It's a watershed issue.
It is a watershed issue. So they have scientists, and I'm not a scientist, but who know how water flows, and that's how those are determined. So.
Excellent. That's very helpful. So let's go back to the water issue. Here in Lancaster County, I think we think more about drinking water, not so much about irrigation. We do think a little bit about flood water.
Yes.
And you mentioned the city of Lincoln has a 50-year plan where they're planning on doing other things. Will the natural, Please elaborate on that and how much the Natural Resource District will be involved in that.
Well, most of that will be the city, and the city's obligation. They will have to apply for permits with the Department of Natural Resources for those type of wells. However, I think the NRD can be assistful to make sure that we have enough water in the system, and anything we can do to help the city delay the need for new construction would, of course, save the taxpayers money, I think.
Yeah, I was confused by that. When I found out where we get our drinking water from, it was a little perplexing to me. I just turned the tap on, it works.
and the goal is that always is the case, because if that doesn't work, then there's big problems.
So you told us about your experience working in the legislature, and you've dealt with water issues. Last year there was a interim study on water. Was that something that you, the NRD, did?
Well, Senator Carlson has been leading on the water issue a lot. He's the chair of the Natural Resources Committee in the legislature, and they've been trying to find ways to work together. And I think, again, most of it is focused more on the western area, because that's where the problem is. That's where Kansas, of course, is suing Nebraska, and
Republican
big
River
money
issue,
issues are and those issues are very important and are very interesting too, but they aren't as much dealing with the issues here in the Lower Platte South, because those are different rivers. They don't flow together. So
So the Natural Resource District on a state level, does it work well with the Lower Platte South and all the other? I'm looking for more cooperation.
you're asking how do they interplay?
How do they work together? Yes. We seem to have lots of different subdivisions. How do they all?
Well, I think they are working together better, and again, I think the Lower Platte South, for one, has voluntarily working with the Department of Natural Resources to develop what's called an integrated management plan.
Okay.
Because the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, is in charge of surface water, but the NRDs are in charge of groundwater. So obviously those are related in many ways, but they're governed differently under state law.
Okay.
But working together, you can get an integrated management plan, which means you integrate your two plans together to make sure you're working together. And that's mandated on the districts that are short of water, but is voluntary for districts that are not. And the Lower Platte South is not to the level of fully appropriated, as we talked about before. So we are voluntarily working together with the department, which I think is a good step, because I'd much rather work about it. It's much better if we're working together voluntarily than if we're forced to.
Yeah, it sounds like your experience in the legislature and with the Natural Resource District will come in handy.
I hope so, and it's just the issues are really. I hope we're not getting too technical for.
I think a little bit more technical understanding would be helpful for the public.
Sure.
Yeah, because we just assume it works automatically and don't think much about it. I was reading the website for the NR this long name, Lower Platte South Natural Resource District.
Yes.
Is that how it will appear on the ballot?
It will, and so when you get to the ballot, and of course I'm going to be one of the last people on the ballot, so I encourage everyone out there to turn their ballots over and vote all the candidates, because it is very important that, and we have property tax. We pay property taxes to your natural resources districts for the things that they do, so it's very important. So
I did not know that either. That was one of the questions. Where's the funding come from? Do you have a staff and things like that? I want to go get to that in a minute. I want to talk about when I was on the website. There were 4 standing committees: a Land Resources Committee, a Water Resources Committee, an Urban Committee, and a Recreation, Forestry, and Wildlife Committee. You did mention the Recreation, but are there any of those 4 committees that really intrigue you more than others, something you would work on when you're elected?
When I'm elected, I would like to really work on, well, we talked a lot about the water, but I really think the recreational trails issues are also very important for the city of Lincoln. And as I hope most people know, we have a very nice trail system in Lincoln.
Yes.
We have for hikers and bikers, and I think we need to think of it not just as an amenity, but also as transportation, give people alternate ways to get to work and to school and to play. And I think that can be used not just as a bonus or anything like that, but it can be used as a marketing tool for the city of Lincoln and Lancaster County to attract new businesses in here, because those are the type of things that new start businesses are looking for, are those type of things that to attract and maintain our young people and our professionals and stop any brain drain out of the city. So
I was, again, on your website, I noticed that, let me back up. I agree with you. The extra trails and the water are really important, and they're nice amenities. I really enjoy. I have a friend who was talking on Friday after work. He was going to load his camping gear onto his bicycle and bicycle out to Wagon Train and camp overnight. And I thought, you're going to do what now? He goes, and he explained to me this is a nice recreation area just outside the city. He could bike there and camp out overnight and bike back. Our trail system is growing greatly. Your website, the NRD website, showed that they're expanding the trail system. Is that something that, Sub-District 8, do these trail systems, are they specific to districts? Would you not be a part of the discussion since the trail is not going through your district? Or
Well, I live really close to the Mopac Trail.
Oh, yes.
And so we use that quite often. But I think the whole trail system can be connected more. And I know I've talked to some other political subdivisions outside of Lancaster County. I'm interested in working together to link more of our communities through trails. So I think that's another way we can work together with our neighbors and integrate, because a lot of that increases consumption.
Yes.
And sales taxes and stuff like that as well.
I used to be a much more avid cycler than I am now, and I would ride the Mopac Trail out toward Ashland and out to Ashland. But they said there used to be more economic development along the trail when it was originally developed. I think more that would come if you were able to expand it some more.
Oh, I agree.
So, sticking along that line, what are your areas when you're elected? What would you pursue most? What are you interested in seeing us advance?
Well, I'd like to see us, like I said, advance the trail system, continue maintaining it very well, which I think they're doing, and then find ways to connect those trails to each other, connect our communities together in ways to encourage that type of interrelationship and working together. On the trail issue, I think that would be very important. On the water issues we've talked about, I think the more we continue to find sustainable ways to move forward and to prepare as opposed to respond to issues that come up with that. So
I understand. And so you're running, and it's kind of the same question again. Why now? Why run for NRD now? Why? You could have run earlier. You could wait a little longer. Is there something that really said this is the time for you?
Well, I think the drought of 2012 really did wake us up to the importance of water here in Lincoln, that we are subject to a lot of forces that may be beyond our control, but we can prepare and be ready for them when they come. And that really, I think, woke us all up to how,
I have friends who got tickets for watering. And so along those lines,
issues, and frankly, it's a time of my life right now where I feel I can give back and work in public services in this regard. I have 2 young children, and I really care about growing Lincoln and maintaining it sustainably for them. My daughter Abby is starting first grade next week, and my son Warren, who just turned 4, he'll be in kindergarten a year from now. And they're old enough now that I can do some things. This is not a huge time commitment. It's not a full-time job. I will continue my job in the legislature, and
so you'll be attacking the water.
This is an unpaid position, so
yes.
I'm not doing this for the glory or the money. But
I was surprised to hear that too. It is an unpaid position. Then how many meetings? How much time does it involve travel?
The full board meets monthly, and then the subcommittees, as you know, meet, which you've talked about a little bit. Have their own meetings, but it's mostly the one monthly meeting of the 21 board members get together to meet.
21.
21. So 2 from each of the 10 districts, and then 1 member is elected at large by the entire Natural Resources District, and that is Dave Landis.
That's a big board.
It is a very large board. I mean, our state legislature only has 49 people, so 21 members for 1 NRD board it does seem like quite a bit of people to make those decisions. But.
Well, let me ask you, how does our NRD, I say our, the Lower Platte South, the one I reside in, compare to other natural resource districts around the state? Same number of board members?
No, I haven't really looked at the political makeup of all the other NRDs. I know we've changed the way we used to elect our board members more at large, kind of like how the county board used to be elected in districts and then at large. That changed, I think, in the late 90s. But
okay.
So each district kind of has some autonomy of how they can set up their own districts, their numbers, and how they're elected. So
it's whatever the geographic need is, they kind of structured it.
Sure, and of course you can tell in more populous counties like Lancaster will have different representative needs than some of the, since they're on watershed, some of them may not have a lot of urban areas in them, so they may have different ways of electing their board members.
I grew up in a different state, and I'm a Nebraskan by choice, and that diversity, or that, not really diversity, the difference between eastern Nebraska and western Nebraska is just so stark to me. I assume it was very homogenous all the way across, but geographically it's different and culturally it's different. And
well, and it is very different, and also the NRD is another example of Nebraska trying to do things our own way too. Other states do not have natural resources districts, although some of them do have water districts and other districts dealing with water, but we are the only state that has districts specifically designed on watersheds to deal with these issues.
And that was huge. Thank you for that. That helped enormously. So all the water that runs either into or out of, that's how we decided where the districts are.
Yes.
That was,
and I mean, that was I think a big visionary step in the 70s when the NRDs were set up, was to focus not on the political subdivisions, which are arbitrarily drawn many years ago, and to focus on the natural resources districts, because it's about the resource, it's not about the political subdivisions.
So I asked you a few minutes ago on what you were interested in doing. Is there anything that you're aware of that's currently on the agenda for the natural resource districts that you'd like to help guide the process?
Well, I know they just finished their budgeting process, and I think they've been a very good steward of the budget. They have never, it is paid for by property taxes, but it is a very small amount compared to the other property taxes. If you look at your sheet when you get that every 6 months, it tells you who's collecting what from your property tax bill. There is a line for the natural resources district, but it's smaller compared to, of course, the public schools and the other districts that are have much more employees. We do not. The Lower Platte South NRD has a headquarters, and it has some employees that have been there a long time and are very good at what they do. But obviously, the difference is the needs are mostly about the construction projects and the maintenance projects more than the number of people. So.
I understand. Yeah, that's helpful. I did notice you do have an office, and it looks like some really dedicated employees working there. So you'll meet once a month. You'll talk about these issues, and I'm not sure if I do live in your district or not. I'm not sure which sub-district I live in, but I live near one of those corners. How do I get in touch with you as a candidate now and as an elected member after November? How would I?
Well, I have a web page, greenfornrd.com, greenfornrd.com, and I also you can reach me at, my email is the same, greenfornrd@gmail.com, and I have a Facebook page. If you look me up on Facebook at Green for NRD, you can find me on Facebook and like me there, and I will be communicating with the voters, and if I am lucky enough to be elected, my constituents then, and on that way as well.
You might have said this, and I was trying to process it. So it's Green, the number 4?
No, the word for, F-O-R.
Yeah, GRENFOR. For
NRD.
NRD. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I get a little confused on that.
No, and of course, that people use the letters for,
Yeah. Natural Resource District, NRD. That's really, alphabet soup. I saw in passing that there was an opportunity for you to speak at a candidates forum.
Yes, the Friends of Wilderness Park is hosting a candidates forum next Monday, August 18th, and both for my district and District 9, which is going to be at the Gear Library, and so I think that'll be another opportunity for people to get out and meet the candidates and hear about these issues, because I'm really excited for that, because really, as you know, we have a lot of elected officials in Nebraska, and these districts are specialized, and I think the more we can get out there and get information out there, that people can make informed and intelligent decisions, which I think is good. So
what if I wanted to volunteer to help you? This sounds like a grassroots movement where I can actually get involved in.
Yes.
Same contact information work for that?
That'd be fine. Contact me, and this is not big money politics. This is going to be me mostly going door to door, so I'm hopefully showing up at people's doors really soon, knocking and talking about these issues and introducing myself to the people of the district. And if you live in the district or live nearby and you would like a yard sign, of course, I will have those later on. But mostly it's just going to be me working and talking. And if you're interested or anyone else is interested in helping out, mostly it's going to be talking to your neighbors, talking to your friends, getting the word out there, because this is not going to be a high-profile race. This isn't governor or senator, so it's going to be me meeting people and saying, who's Tom Green, what's the NRDs, how do we get out there? So that's the information that's really important to get out there.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm not sure, don't really mean to ambush you, but what would be the 3 things? You come to my door, why should I vote for you? Well, can you give me some?
Because I will protect Lincoln's water, I will expand our trails, and I will work together with all of Lincoln, Lancaster County, and our neighboring communities to make life in Lincoln a better place.
Thank you. That's nice. You did that really well. I thought I was going to catch you off guard there, but I think you might have been prepared for that. So there are a couple other things I want to talk with you about, and we've talked about your website and reaching you and contact you, and we talked about the forums. And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and you're on the ballot.
Yes.
You're Tom Green. I've known you for some time. I call you Tom Green, but your legal name is Thomas. How will you appear on the ballot?
I will appear on the ballot as Tom Green, because you can, when you sign up to run for office, you pick how you appear on the ballot. And my official legal name is Thomas, I go by Tom. So I will be Tom Green on the ballot. And confusingly also is I did not appear on the primary ballot.
Yes, that's the other thing.
Because under state law, if there's only 2 candidates running, they don't appear on the ballot. So to save money on ballot printing costs. So I was not on the primary ballot. So if you're like, well, I didn't see you on the ballot in the primary, well, that doesn't mean you're not in the district. It just means that we weren't on the ballot because I automatically advanced. So
that's where I was going.
We'll be on the ballot in November, and so I'll appreciate everyone's vote then. And again, it's going to be towards the end of the ballot. So turn the ballot over before you get to vote for the minimum wage petition. Vote for Green for NRD. So
Green for NRD, lower into the ballot, and the election is the date, please.
It is in November 4th, right? The 4th is the Tuesday. The first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. But it will be on your general election day.
You were talking about getting out and walking. That's what made me think of it. It's not that far off.
It really isn't. It seems like like I said, school starting next week, and that seems really soon.
Yeah, I'm like you. What? School starts Tuesday? It can't be.
But soon. Yeah, it's August, so it will be November before we know it. So, and luckily football is starting soon. So.
Well, yes. Yeah, Husker football. Tom, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I hope after you're elected to the NRD, you'll come back and tell us what progress is happening.
I will. I mean, that's part of the reason I'm running too, is just to get more information about the NRD out there. So that's why I'm glad to do this show. And when I talk to the voters, is just we need more information, and sometimes we get too much information. But this is a way we can interact with our government and our people, and that's why we live in a democracy and what makes us great. So.
It is what makes us great. Yes, this is grassroots politics.
This is
where the rubber meets the road.
Close as you get to that. So.
Well, thank you for coming on. I hope you'll come back again soon.
All right.
And we'd like to thank you for watching another episode of The Watchful Citizen. This is a public access program brought to you by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. Our show airs on Time Warner Cable Public Access on Tuesday nights, 10:30, Wednesdays at 6 p.m., and Saturdays at noon. You can also catch us on our YouTube channel, Lancaster County Democrats. We hope you enjoyed the program. We'd like to thank Tom Green for joining us, and we look forward to him coming back after he's elected, and we hope to see you again on another episode of The Watchful Citizen.